deciding whether I want to tell you a fireside story tonight. It's a bit of a risque story. But before I get into it, what I've been noticing lately on some of the other live streamers, I don't follow a lot of YouTubers. But the ones that are brought to my attention or that I do happen to follow, I'm noticing more and more that they're taking language from me. They're taking my talking points. They're even starting to get to the place where they're actually saying words the way I say them. I haven't really been watching the Majority Report a lot, but I did notice the other day that Sam Cedar says people the way I say it, because I do kind of say it in a very specific sort of unusual way, people. And he said it exactly the same way as me. And I'm just like, has he always said it? I actually tried to do a search. To see if I could find him saying it like a few months back or something, to see if he has always said it that way. I don't know. Because I when I've watched back my own live streams, I have watched it, and like when I hear myself speak, I'm a little surprised at how I sound. Like, I'm surprised at how I articulate certain things, and I put the emphasis on the wrong syllables, right? Like, I have a bit of a weird way of saying things, and it doesn't occur to me until I hear myself speak back that I'm doing this. And so when I watch these other YouTubers and I hear them say things that I have said, or I hear them say things, pronounce things in the unusual way that I pronounce things, it just makes me think, okay, so I guess my audience is larger than I thought. Like, I don't even know what to say about that. Because, yeah, I mean, oftentimes I'll watch my stuff back and I'm like, I do say things kind of in weird ways. Like, I have a bit of a bizarre pronunciations of certain words. It is clear. I mean, I do hit all the consonants and vowels properly. It's a little bit weird the way I say things. It doesn't feel weird when it's coming out of my mouth, but when I'm watching it back, it feels a little weird. I can completely credit this to my mom's mom, my grandmother, who I lived with for quite a bit of my youth. Off and on, I kept moving back and forth between South OC and LA. And when I was living in LA, I lived for a long time with my mom's mom, and she was really big on pronunciation and articulation. And she even she gave me one of those etiquette books. It was like freaking that thick too. She gave me one of these giant etiquette books and told me I had to read it, and I'm like, that's not gonna fucking happen. I'm not gonna read that. I think the only thing I did with it was the one trick where you're supposed to like put it on your head and walk across the room so that you have the correct posture. I think that's the only thing I did with that book. I did listen to her lessons, but I wasn't gonna sit down and study this crap, obviously. All the swear words that come out of my mouth. I wasn't going to sit down and study that. But I did listen to the lessons. Right? Okay, so here's the story. Here is your fireside story for the evening. I was actually on the phone with my friend this evening, And I was going to tell him the story, but he got like really wrapped up in the idea that he needed to go get some like sugar drinks like right in that moment. He needed the sugar drinks right then. So I was like, all right. Okay, so here's the story. It's a little bit of a risque story. Trying to remember what year this happened. I think I was 16. I think I was 16 when this happened. So this would have been 92, right? No, it would have been 90. It would have been 1990. I got to do the math on that. I'm terrible at math. Apparently, I'm as good at math as your buddy from Palos Verdes who was doing the... Okay, so it would have been 90. I was 16. I got invited to some party up in Irvine. It was like college kids, right? Like this is this is a long time ago. This sort of shit would not be going on today, right? Like because you can't have college kids mixing with your high school kids anymore. Because of, we're a little bit more serious about that crossover, that 18-year-old crossover line. But this was 1990. And I went to a party in Irvine. And I don't even know who had the apartment. It was, God, so much. I can't tell you everything. I cannot even tell you everything that happened. But I cannot even tell you everything that happened. That was so crazy. That night was so crazy. Oh, I know. It was our friend Tom. It was our friend Tom who brought me up there. He's a gay friend of mine. He has passed away. He passed away quite a while ago. And he's the one who had me. He's like, hey, let's go to this party. So we go to this party in Irvine. And I'm fairly certain this was 90 and I was like 16. And we get totally drunk at this party. And then the person who is renting the apartment says, let's all pile into the truck and go to Hollywood. And this is also predates the seatbelt law. Okay. So we get in the truck and I know Tom was riding in the front with the fella who had the fella who had the apartment had a girlfriend too, and she was there I think earlier in the evening, but she then went home and did not come with us for the rest of the journey. In the back, in the bed of the truck, where there's no seat belts, we're all just like lying in the bed of the truck. But there was a shell. There was a shell over us. It's me, a couple of dudes who I think were homeless, but they were like staying at places like that, like just staying randomly at like people's apartments. And there was two of them. And there was also another one of our gay friends who I think in today's terminology would be considered on the gender spectrum, would be considered either transgender or non-binary or something. Her name was Autumn. She's probably going by they or he at this point, and was trying to appear as a man at that time, but still using the name Autumn. Okay. So, but this is 1990. So like this predates a lot of like the terminology that we have today, right? So we drive up to Hollywood. We go to this coffee shop that's called the Living Room. And I don't even think we stayed there for that long. Like I don't really remember much about the living room except that there were a lot of couches there. And I think we had a cup of coffee. What I didn't realize until we actually got back to Irvine is that the dude who was driving us was like drinking Fireball or something the entire time. And no, I can't tell you this part. Well, let's just say he was getting some distractions. I don't think I can say this part. Well, I mean, Tom is deceased, so perhaps it doesn't matter. He was getting a blowjob the entire way home. He was getting a blowjob the entire fucking way home. And we didn't know this. He was driving perfectly. He was literally drinking Fireball and getting a blowjob the whole way home. Such a crazy story. And I'm in the back. I am lying between, because, it's a bed of the truck. And there's two dudes on one side of me, and there's Autumn on the other side of me. And I have two hands on my ass the whole way home because they were both trying to pick up. One of the dudes was trying to pick up on me, and Autumn was trying to pick up on me at the same time on the way home. What a crazy night. That was such a crazy night. And then I did sleep there because I wasn't going to drive. I was not going to get behind a wheel. That is the first night that I ever heard The Wall, Pink Floyd, The Wall. And they put it on the record player. It was on vinyl. So you know what happens with the record player. Every time it gets to the end of the record, it skips back to like the middle of the record. And that was going on all fucking night. So I cannot watch The Wall anymore. I can't watch The Wall anymore. Because every time I watch it or every time I hear the album, it reminds me of this night. It totally reminds me of this night. And that was just such a crazy night. And I ended up hooking up with one of the dudes. They were brothers, right? I ended up hooking up with one of the dudes. And then I got bored with him because I was young. I got bored with him. And I ended up dating the other one, his brother, like 2 weeks later. And then I got bored with him because I was young. And so apparently both of them ended up going to party with a close friend of mine on New Year's Eve. And they apparently spent the entire night saying there's no possible way I could have been a virgin because of the way I move. I was a virgin. I was a virgin. I didn't have sex with either of them. I just kissed them. It was like heavy petting or whatever. I did not have sex with either of these boys, but they believed that it was impossible for me to be a virgin because of the way I move. But at that point, I had something like 7 years of dance. I know how to fucking move, y'all. Fucking move. But no, that was such a crazy adventure. And I have told that story many, many, many times. I've never told it publicly before, but I've told it to a lot of my friends. I've told this particular story to a lot of my friends. And it's one of those stories where it's like, I'm so surprised that I am alive today. I'm so surprised that I'm alive today because there have been situations where I didn't realize people were putting me in danger. Like it didn't even occur to me that I was being put in danger. And the funny thing is, when you hang out with people and, everybody always assumes good intent. you shouldn't. You really shouldn't, right? So my friend Tom put me in a super dangerous situation without my knowledge. Like, I didn't know that he was up there giving the dude a blowjob and, like, the guy was drinking Fireball. I didn't know that was going on. Tom later went on to, like, do a Jerry Springer episode. I don't know. I don't know the circumstances behind his passing. But he was definitely reckless. And I didn't know at the time that he was that reckless. And, you know, when you're a kid, this is why you got to watch your kids. This is why you got to watch your kids. Because we don't know. You know, we're just like, hey, you seem cool. You seem like fun. We don't know that people are going to put us in danger until we find, you know, until it happens. And I did not know until we actually came back to Irvine that he had... Oh, by the way, the dude who was driving the next morning freaked the fuck out because apparently, like, he had that experience while intoxicated and then realized that, like, it all came back to him, and then he wanted to beat the fuck out of Tom because he basically, like, felt like he was taken advantage of while he was drunk, and the dude had a girlfriend. Some of you guys need to realize that you're bisexual. Let's just be real. Some of you dudes need to realize that you are bisexual. Okay, so anyway, that is probably one of... I have other stories too, but that's one of the wildest teenage stories that I have, and one of the reasons that I thank God every day that I'm still alive and I actually survived my teens. That's one of the reasons.